Hi everyone out there. Happy Thursday. I was going to say happy Wednesday, which makes me realize that I feel like I've lost part of my week this week. So it is definitely Thursday. So nice to see you, Monica. Oh, Elsa Louise, nice to see your face there. Yeah, thank you all for joining. We've been thinking this week a lot about gifts and holiday knitting, but not necessarily the standard holiday knitting, because when I think of holiday knitting, it's when it's over the holidays, it's what I want to be knitting during the holidays. So if you if you want to pop up in the comments there the kind of things that you pick out yourself for knitting over the holidays. And Elsa Louise, yes, I survived the storm. It was, as is always here, it's never as dramatic as it seems. Once you don't lose your power, because our water is connected with the power because we have to pump it up the hill. So if our power goes, our water goes. And that's when we run into problems, because I've got plenty of means of cooking and heating and all the rest of it that does not depend on electricity. So we've got, oh, here you go. You were saying you like to knit hats over the holidays. Very good. I must admit that I've got kind of two go-tos for holiday knits. Oh, we've got Crafty Kathy. You try to catch up on UFOs. That is a good idea. And weaving ends in. If I've got a project with loads of ends to weave in and I'm sitting around and chatting with people, I'll often leave it out so that I can pick it up and work on. But the two criteria for me are that there's a lot of knitting in it and that the knitting is fairly mindless, which usually means garter stitch or stockinette stitch. Headbands, cowls and hats. Yes, they're all nice and small and you kind of keep going. Monica, you like to catch up on projects and plan for the next year. Oh God, you're too far ahead of me altogether. My Christmas often tends to be selfish knitting, in fact, because it's a kind of time out. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to knit something for myself. Andrea, you're saying socks. Kim, you're going to do your first socks over the holidays. That's a really good call. Socks are a big one for me, particularly if I'm traveling, because you get a lot of knitting out of a small project. So for me, I love doing socks, but like just plain vanilla ones, nothing fancy. And it's very, very straightforward. And there's a few spots with socks where you have to concentrate. So I've got a sock over here somewhere. Here we go. Here's a relatively plain vanilla one. There's the Yule socks that I have to knit along for, but this one is cuffed down. So the only bit that's complex is the waves here, which you can even leave out if you want to make it even simpler. And then it's just the tube. You have to focus a little bit when you're doing the heel, and then the rest of it is just knitting around. Ting, you're hoping to find time to knit a bigger project like a sweater or a cardigan. Yeah, big projects are really good, but I would suggest over the holidays keeping them fairly simple. Elsa Louise, you wanted suggestions for a cozy man sweater. One of the one that is really popular is the Kirkcrow one. I don't have the sample here, but it's a top-down saddle shoulder one. And it's done in New Worsted, and it's proved really, really popular. Catherine, they look so cozy. They are cozy. And the nice thing about these particular ones, these are in socks, yeah, which is the yarn. It's a slightly lighter weight, fingering weight, which I find very good for socks, because socks can very easily get very bulky when you're hand knitting them. So you want to go for a pretty fine yarn so that you can wear them underneath more items as you go. But yeah, it's probably the go-to men's sweater I found for the last couple of years has been the Kirkcrow one that I designed. And I cannot remember the name of it, but in Contemporary Irish Knits, I've got a men's sweater in there as well that is a bottom up, and it's also a saddle shoulder. And that's also a good men's sweater as well, I think. For me, though, I've been talking last week a small bit about what I was going to be knitting over the holidays, probably. If I can get my work knitting finished, then this is what I'm going to be working on. I was saying that I was going to take probably the light mid-grey in the soft chunky, and at least hopefully in the next couple of days I'm going to swatch this. So once I've got the swatch done, I can do a little bit of calculations. But probably a top-down sweater similar to, this is Kalias, So this one is in newer worsted. So it just starts with the cowl and then it's knit from the top down. It's got a couple of different colors going, and it's got these yarn over details on the on the raglan, but other than that it's pretty straightforward. So I might take the bones of this, but possibly even do a simpler increase down here. But it's particularly this big cowl collar that I was thinking of would look really nice in the chunky soft. So something like this, not the same, but the kind of shape. Benefit being is that once you've got the whole thing initially set up, it's just round and round, just doing increases every other round. So that is the kind of thing that I tend to go for over holiday knits, because we often sit around and we're watching a lot of movies, we play a lot of board games, because we've got mountains of board games that my husband keeps buying that never get played except for the holidays. Can those socks be knit on small circulars? Absolutely. If you get, the really tiny little circulars that you can use for sock knitting. The other one, I've got a couple here, called flyers, which are like 2 half ones, where they've got a small 2 tips and one that bends in the middle, and then you can use 2 of these and a third one. I generally use a magic loop, but that is my own preference. I think it's the way that I actually knit. Hi Europe are giving me the flyers from those are quite good if you like small circular or something. It's between a double pointed needle and a small circular, really is the best way to describe it. My style of knitting, the way I hold it, I tend to use magic loop because of the way my hand hold is. If you quite like double pointed needles but want to try something a little different, then the small circulars and things like that might work well. But I do find that what you use depends on your knitting style very much. So that's kind of, socks, which we pulled up here, and some kind of a very straightforward in the round garment. Another one, I was actually trying to figure out kind of simple projects that you could work on but that had a good bit of knitting in them. This may not at first glance seem like it would fall into that category, the bohus, but it's knit in the round from the bottom up. So if you see up to here, it's just a tube of knitting. So you could actually, and this one's the newest sport, so if you got the body done up to there over the holidays, then afterwards you'd actually have something interesting to work on, to do a little bit more complex. So something like that would work. And if you want it totally plain, you can sometimes even take a sweater like this and work with the plain all the way up and leave the main part out. Here's another one again that's might also actually be really nice and chunky. It's the Decite, which is the fold over one. This one is a newer worsted, so it's top down with garter stitch in the front, a little I-cord edging, and just plain stockinette stitch on the back. So very straightforward. I find the main thing with bigger projects is getting them started before the holidays, so that the whole thing's set up and you know what you're supposed to be doing, and then the actual knitting when you're sitting down is nice and straight, nice and easy. Another one, because people were talking about small things like hats and cowls and headbands, and like the iceling set, the little small baby top down, or hats, baby hats, things like that work out really well. There's been several years actually where when it's come up to the holidays and I've had my usually nieces, I've got quite a few nieces, less nephews, mainly nieces, and I might have a yarn or something around and they totally fall in love with it, and I almost always end up promising them something by the end of the holidays. So what I'm meant to be working on gets sidelined and I'm manically knitting a cardigan or a hat or whatever it might be, in order to gift it to them before they leave a couple of days later. So it's kind of strange, backwards gift knitting, I suppose. So, and the other part of gift knitting that we were also discussing a lot online was just talking about gifting to knitters. And we had posted the question up here and also on Twitter and got some really great answers that what do you gift to a knitter, and what do you like as a knitter to be given? So we kind of pulled the whole thing together, and we've Tina, I'll answer you in a second on the Marl's cardigan. We've pulled the whole thing together into a gift guide on the blog, which is, I think it's just gone live now, but just as an overview of the kind of things people like. Number one, people say they prefer gift cards because they know exactly what they want, or they may have a specific list, and so a gift card means that they get to buy exactly what they want. So that makes total sense, because a non-knitter going in trying to find a knitter gift is quite difficult. But if it's for another knitting friend who perhaps has a lot of other yarns and all the rest of it, and you know they get a lot of stuff themselves, the kind of ideas that came up were project bags, which makes sense because there's some really interesting and often unusual and occasionally hard to get project bags that make beautiful gifts. Stitch markers, some of them are almost like jewelry. In fact, like Python Charms, who does the ones for the club, her ones are effectively little jewelry. You can even get bracelets to go with them. So like different kinds of unique, interesting stitch markers do make really nice gifts. A few other ones. What do I have over here? The other bits that we were kind of pulling out are things like books. Books are always good, or just general accessories like these, yarn bowls, or possibly swifts or things like that that they may not have. Kim, stitch markers are lovely. Yeah, stitch markers I think make lovely gifts, particularly if you know somebody who makes them and they're very unique and interesting looking. Other little things like this are the badly made books, notebooks with their, the back of those has got knitted graph paper. So again, you don't necessarily need to know exactly the kind of yarn or the projects that a knitter works on for little accessories like this, because you can't go too far wrong with that. But if anyone else has any other suggestions for gifts for knitters, just pop them up there and I will share it as we go through. Or even unique yarns like hand dyers that perhaps are hard to get hold of, that you might even have gotten on during the year or something like that. Kim, you were asked, was it Kim? No, it was somebody else was asking about the Marl sweater that I've been working on. It is finished, but I'm waiting for the sample knitters to send the sweater version. So it's going, and at this point, I'm kind of hesitant to launch new kits before Christmas because shipping slows down considerably. So pretty much the first thing we will be launching when we come back is going to be the cardigan sweater knit. So anyone who'd been looking some of these before will actually have seen what I was progressing on. So there's one of them is a big shawl collar with short rows. It's a couple of cables, double moss stitch, and then there's going to be a sweater version as well. So it was one of my children's requests, and so for them and their girlfriend, we're going to get the two of them to model them once we get them in, and I will get them out, but it'll be first thing in the new year. Wild Rose Textiles, you want me to confirm if the Celtic Knit Club will be available in the digital format? Yes, it absolutely will. It'll be in the next couple of days, because I've just wound up the full Celtic Knits Club a couple of days ago, or day before yesterday. My days are getting lost. And I just need to tidy that up and put up the new one on Ravelry and on my website as a digital. So by early next week, maybe by the next couple of days, but I'm not going to promise that, definitely by the start of next week, the digital version of the 22 Celtic Knits Club will be up. So for anyone who doesn't want to mess with shipping, but who would like to get all of the patterns and the workshops and be able to partake kind of in the launch and discussions, then that should all be up fairly soon. I'm kind of watching people popping in here. I was asking Nadia what I should talk about when she's in here somewhere about today, and one of the things she brought up, and she said, you should read out some of your favorite emails from the week. And it's a lovely idea, but it's also extremely embarrassing to start reading out emails that people have sent to you when they're nice, because anyone who knows the Irishes, we're not very good with that. And we were also asking, will there be a January shawl? There will. It's going to go on pre-sale in January, and then the first clue is going to be coming out in February. I'm working on that at the moment. I'm running into some problems, not with the shawl, but with my kitten, because one of the yarns that I'm testing with is Cumulus. I'm using some of the Blostelite with Cumulus, which is actually a lovely combination. but the cumulus would appear to be far too similar to a little animal, and so the kitten keeps robbing it. I put it into my bag, I close the bag up, I fold it, and if she gets into her room before me, she will literally dive into the bag until she found the yarn. So anyone's got kittens around, beware of cumulus, because apparently it is irresistible to small kittens. Elsa Louise, the best part of the club is the yarn. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the yarn. I've gotten samples actually of the hand-dyed yarn from Townhouse Yarn that is going into the Celtic Knits Club this year, and it's really, really pretty. So, but you have to wait a few months for that one. So I'm going to share one of the nice emails because Nadia suggested I should. So this one from during the week, Susan sent on an email and a photograph of a ravi that she just finished that was just so nice, really, really pretty. And she was saying that she loved how it turned out and it fits perfectly. And she said that the pattern was the best written pattern she'd ever read and knit. So thank you very much, Susan. I really appreciate that. It's feedback, both positive and negative, is excellent, because negative is important because it means you can change things, but the positive means that you know you're heading in the right direction. So both are really good. So thank you. I do very much appreciate that. You just got a Siamese cat for Hanukkah. Oh, well, I really, really hope that your kitten does not like softer wools as much as possible. I think it might be because the cumulus has got the brushed alpaca in it, so it's really fluffy, which I do think makes it look a little bit like an animal. I suspect she's hunting it rather than playing with it, because she has got extraordinarily strong hunting instincts. Our previous ones were hunty, but I've never seen anything like this. She's kind of out of this world. So that's kind of our little, I suppose, gift idea, both giving and receiving ideas. And do line up your holiday knits. Now think about what you're going to be doing. I don't know what your holiday looks like, whether you spend a lot of time watching TV or whether, like us, you play board games, which are quite difficult to combine with knitting. But start thinking about what you want to have in your needles, get it forward planned, and so then you've got lovely, relaxing knitting to go. And it means that the reason I like the bigger projects is that I'm mindlessly knitting while I'm talking to people or doing other things, and before I know it, I've got half a sweater done. So it makes you feel really productive when you're sitting on the sofa. Elsa Louise, you said the cats keep the mice out of the house. True, true, true. Ours have caught shrews outside during the summer, but they haven't yet managed to get a mouse because we don't have too many mice in the house. Fingers crossed that this winter will be the same. And I don't think they'd like to tackle rats because they're not so good. You don't get those in the house, but we're close enough to a farm that you occasionally see them outside, but they haven't attempted to bring one of those around yet, thankfully. Kathy, you're having trouble knitting with a little kitty. She wants to play with the yarn. It's really difficult. I have to get them settled down and then hide it so that the kitten cannot actually touch the yarn when I'm knitting. And yeah, this kitten seems to be very, very attached to the yarn. So it is a challenge. Keeping it in a bag helps, and waiting for them to go to sleep is pretty much the only two things that I have done. But I have discovered that yarn running in front of her, even if she appears to be asleep, is enough to wake her up and make her attack. So yeah, hopefully that lessens as she gets older, because it's going to be very difficult to continue knitting in the evenings otherwise. So all right, I'm going to go head off, and I will see next week is going to be the last one before the holidays, and we will take, it'll probably be around 10 days that we take off. I'll have notifications up as we go around. If you want anything shipped, pretty much now is the last time it should be going out. It'll still probably get to the, it's probably still going to get to the States, but occasionally over the holidays it does slow down, particularly with larger packages if they get stopped by customs. So yeah, immediate ordering if you need something urgently before the holidays. If you're in Europe, it should be a little bit faster. In Ireland, obviously, you've still got a bit more time. So all right, bye everyone.